Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Primecraft. So this is our 10th episode. It's only taken us about 2.5 months to get here, but... Oh, sheep, please. Thank you. But I thought I would do something a little bit different this time around. We are still going to be doing some work in the savannah, but in the meantime, I also kind of wanted to give you an idea of where I've come from. So basically, starting from my very first project in my very first world to where I am today. So let's go ahead and I will give you a tour of what I've worked on over the last, well, just over a year now. So welcome to my very first house, which I thought was super cool and fancy and wonderful. I was not one of those people who was going to build a dirt hut. I was going to build a proper house. So let's close this door and take a look at the majesty that is my first house. It's hideous. It's completely awful. It's safe and secure, but that's about all it is. See, look, I'm mixing all sorts of stuff in there. I ran out of cobblestone, so I'm like, oh, I'll use this white stuff, and then I'll use this other stuff right here. But, you know, it is what it is. And it helped keep me alive. Of course I died that first night, because I had no idea what I was doing. I had trouble keeping mobs out, because I didn't know about light levels, so this little moat was my, my anti-mob moat. So that way if things got in, they wouldn't be able to kill me. And, let's see, I had a little mine shaft out there. I decided to create one in here, obviously not knowing what I was doing. And so yeah, there's my first little mine shaft going down to, I don't know how deep, but probably not very. And as you can see by my inventory down there at the bottom, I didn't exactly have a whole lot. Ooh, I did end up getting some of this stuff, but it took me a while. So let's go ahead and so this is place number 1, and I will go ahead and show you what my other bases on this world look like if I can remember how to find them. We'll be right back. Alright, so I have this lovely space made entirely of stone with ladders that go up, and there's a little bit of storage right there. Okay, and then here is the little blacksmith house that I came into. Ooh, I'm cooking potatoes. Sweet. Got some glass in there. And trying to figure out some different banners, because that's what you do when you're starting out, and it's kind of fun. I also added a second and third floor. So got some flowers in there. And this was also my little lookout perch, so that way I could see anything that was coming in my direction. I don't think I knew about glass panes at the time. But as you can see, I came across a village down there. And what did I do? I had no idea what villagers were, so I promptly I did not sleep, so they're all dead. So with my very first village, I ended up getting all of them killed. I did not protect them because I did not know how. Alright, so this is my little reservoir. Not reservoir. Levee, essentially. To try and keep out all the things that wanted to kill us. And my villagers, which were already dead, so it didn't really matter. Oh, look, my pretty banner. It was really hard. Like, I would have been hard-pressed to save the villagers anyway, just because this place is at such vastly different elevations that I would have had to run all over the place. The other problem is that villagers, unfortunately, are stupid. So when I first got here, I kind of holed up in this house, right here. It's not much different than when I first came. And all the villagers would congregate like right here, and then some of them would just be right up against the door. And zombies can actually kind of reach through doors, and needless to say, they killed all of my villagers. So this was another village where I actually managed to keep my villagers alive. And I was pretty proud of that. I set up a wall, mostly made out of dirt, going all the way around. And as you can see, there are torches everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Now I call this Perched Farms because there were these farms over here across this giant ravine, and this one all the way down here. And I remember having villagers kind of... This little hole right wasn't here. And so I remember having villagers kind of wandering around here trying to figure out how to get to these farms, and some of them actually made their way over to these ones, and it was just a mess trying to wrangle them and get them back to where I wanted them. So yeah, this place was a little bit dangerous, but hey, our villagers are still alive, which is a win in my book. So the only building that I really constructed was this one. Oh dear heavens, what is this? Seriously, what is this? I have cobblestone, andesite, spruce, Oh yeah, I ran out of regular glass, so I turned some into panes because why not? So another thing about my very first world is I had a hard time getting around for two reasons. One, for the first, I'd say about month of the game, I didn't know that you could actually run. I didn't know that was a thing. So I pretty much walked everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. It took forever. But eventually I learned how to run, and the only thing about running is it depletes your hunger, so you use up more food, which is fine because it's super easy to find food. But the other thing was that I did not know that if you press the F3 button, you could come up with your coordinates. And that kind of changed everything. You can see all of these torches that I have lighting the way. That way I didn't get lost. So this was my very first nether portal. I had heard about the nether, and I'm like, I want to go there and see what all the hubbub is about. And also, learn about, easier travel. And yeah, so I made that, and it took me into the nether. And I'm like, okay, so I also don't want to lose anything, so I am going to take off all of my gear and take nothing with me, so that way, in case something goes wrong, I don't lose anything. So I went through, and it ended up being fairly safe. The portal was just in a random location, and I'm like, okay, so this isn't too bad, because nothing had shot at me by that time. So I went back through, and ended up way off in that direction, like 300 blocks. And I was in a cave, and I had nothing, and it was dark, and there were mobs. And there was absolutely no way I was going to get back out because it was way underground. And so I'm like, well, shoot. So I go back through the portal, and I did the only rational thing I could think of, which was jump into lava, which landed me back in the overworld. And I kind of did a little bit more research and went from there, found out how to actually sync up portals, more or less. And where did I put my bed? It's on the roof. I don't remember where I put that thing. Oh, I have a bed with me. Haha, because I got smart over time. Oh, I learned about maps. The other reason I wanted to play with maps is because by the time I was playing around in that mountain village, I was completely lost, and because I didn't know a thing about coordinates, I had absolutely no idea how to go back to my original base. Oh, well that's fancy. But yeah, so these maps that I have here were an attempt to go back to my original base, which was the giant block of ugliness that you saw earlier. I also decided to dig into this cave, which has become kind of my go-to method of staying safe from mobs, is to just dig in and light it up so they can't get to me. I thought I was being super fancy by making columns, and look at that, there's glowstone in the columns. So it has its own light. I started making rooms as my little furnace array, with all sorts of fun stuff. I learned about enchanting, so I made an enchanting setup, which is also super fancy. Look at all that lapis. And let's see, what was I going to do over here? I had set up a brewing stand. Since I didn't know a thing about fortresses, I didn't have any netherwort, so I couldn't make any potions. But I was young. I was new. But yeah, I got all my sweet loot here. This ended up being more of a base than the mountain village did. Ooh, I got all sorts of fun flowers. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, this might have been my very first diamond. Don't know if I renamed it, but oh. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this was my first diamond. So, I kept it right there, because this was my first real mine shaft. So after several months of playing, I decided to try and join a server. Because I figured it would be fun to meet other Minecrafters and kind of gain inspiration from other people and actually do some building. This was really my first world. This is where I really started to do my building, where I started kind of developing some of my own styles, and really starting to make an actual base, someplace that's actually a home. So this is Snowstar, and this was basically my mountain village, where I wanted people to be able to come and feel welcome and just kind of be able to enjoy the area and the landscape. I built these different vacation homes for people on the server to be able to come and kind of claim for themselves. I'm relatively happy with how the landscaping turned out. Made little gardens and put out flowers, and I left the insides pretty empty so that way people could come in and do a little bit of decorating. Obviously there's not a whole lot of room, but you could put up a couple little things. That's apparently where a creeper got rid of part of the fence. And so back here I have my barn, which I actually kind of enjoyed. I like how it turned out. Yeah, so I wanted all these houses to be a little bit different, so roofs are not my specialty. roofs are hard. So this one ended up being kind of funky. Some of them are, you know, relatively straightforward. But yeah, just kind of quaint little homes, learning different tricks on how to do, you know, these little torch stands here, which normally you wouldn't be able to do, but it's kind of a fun little trick. And yeah, that was the very first little vacation home that I built when I started doing that. This is my library, which I do kind of enjoy. There are things about it I would change, like these holes right here. I don't know why they're there. Yeah, so I have some pretty carpet going around. I have all the books that I have are organized by type, and so I have, you know, paintings, and I think that's an enchanted book, and made a ton of bookshelves. This is the little reception desk where you can, you know, get these miscellaneous books that don't necessarily aren't necessarily super valuable, extra books and extra ways of making books and just stuff. Yeah, so I have all of these protection, and then up here I have some seating areas, so that way, you know, people who would want to come and hang out could just, you know, sit down at a table. And obviously they can't really do that because these chairs aren't exactly chairs, but it's nice to think about. So I experimented with different ways of doing tables, and tried to get the different kinds of artwork on the wall, you know, trying not to let everything be the same. So I think there's just about one of every small-ish painting around here. Ooh, and this is where I set up my enchanting table, because why not? We're in a library. And I had another ender chest over here. I did not know about ender chests in my first world, which would have completely changed my life, because then I would have been able to make more stuff, but at the time I didn't know about it. And then this was my very first villager farm, and we will get into that later. Needless to say, this makes more villagers through the power of stuff, and there's quite a few down there. Oh, those are all baby villagers. But I had a minecart line that would take them all over here, and so this is my little villager trading hall. Let me jump down to the bottom. And so if we go in here, I went ahead and organized my different villagers by type, and decided to get a little bit cute and make little stalls for each of them depending on what they did. So the cartographers have the map of the area, but then also, you know, just some other little hints of different biomes. So we have sand for the desert, and we have the terracotta for the mesa. Over here we have librarians, and I don't remember exactly what I was thinking over here, but, you know, they have books and paper, and sugarcane makes paper. This guy is down here as a result of an unfortunate fire that took place up above. Let's see, we have more librarians. Oh yeah, we have books over here. I think I just wanted different places for different librarians. And some more over here too. Look how happy they are. Oh, and I had a really good mending librarian that would sell a book for pretty cheap. So hopefully we can get one of those in our new world. You guys are breeding. You should not be breeding. Yeah, but I didn't know a whole lot about villagers at the time, and my knowledge is still relatively limited. But needless to say, things like this should not be happening in here. But that's okay. I'm guessing somebody else came by and used my villagers and maybe accidentally threw some food at them or something. And then, so I liked the concept of having little cells for each villager type. So this was supposed to be kind of like a smithy. These are my armor smiths, and the butcher over here is obviously gone. And the reason I had the glass up here and that stone up there was that way they couldn't jump out. And cats, because, oh, Charles. I forgot about Charles. Yeah. Weaponsmiths and toolsmiths and our fishermen. I actually kind of really like this little section right here. This was where I first came in. This is my first real build on the server, and I decided to make like a little pen for animals right here, and you can kind of see where I got the idea on the savanna to kind of push the animals back a little bit, but this design was quite flawed because, as you can see, I can't really move around super well over here. There's also a ton of entities over here, which meant that the server probably lagged quite a bit whenever I logged on, but hey, you know what, that's the thing. Anyway, so this was my very first home. This is my mountain retreat, and I'm actually relatively happy with how it turned out. I mean, there's lots of little details that could be changed, things that are imperfect. I mean, the sheer fact that there's no front wall right there. But overall, with the style of it, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out as far as kind of being one of my first builds. I never got around to doing a whole lot of the interior. I got my dogs, and I got a horse in here, which I could ride out of right there. I don't think you ever got a name. But yeah, so this is where I hung my banner, and I have my little kitchen over here, and kind of an upstairs area, sort of a dining room. And, oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's just pretend that that didn't happen. Cool, that's fixed. And I have another enchanting set over here. This was the first one. And then I have my little open air bedroom over here, which, you know, doesn't say much for privacy, but yeah, it's kind of fun. So I added some cobwebs into the attic because I figured, you know, it's kind of a place where people didn't often go, and so it's a little bit dusty, and this is where I kept a lot of the different kinds of armor that I picked up from mobs. So none of these were made by me, but this is basically all of my my loot from my various conquests. Another thing that I did was, in experimenting with redstone, I made this fun little staircase, hidden staircase. So when I flick the lever, the stairs go back up, but otherwise, they go down into this hallway down here. This is where I had my nether wart farm. Somebody else had gone into the end and found some, so I just nabbed some from them. And this cave system actually didn't go very deep, but what it did was it went back to my original hole in the wall. When I first got here, I dug into this mountain, and this was my home. I didn't have the cat at the time. Hello, Lucy. But yeah, so I made myself a mine shaft going down, and this used to be my storage area. I had a ton of chests all over here that were, you know, neatly organized, but still, it's a big box of stone. This became my storage area, and I really like how the shape turned out and kind of the grandness of everything. I like the ceiling and just the detail that's in it. Again, some people may not like the birch, but I don't care because I really like how the contrast all turned out. You're hearing a lot of noises because this is where all my pets went. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So this is Missy Sweetums. And these are my parrots that I got from the jungle. And another little puppy who doesn't have a name. So, yeah, so I have all these different chests that are neatly organized and kind of categorized by type. Some of these are miscellaneous. You'll see that I have actually like a little water feature that comes in between the different chests. And I had to put these trapdoors here because I had multiple pets who decided to wander into the water streams and couldn't get out and ended up drowning. And obviously I was very, very sad. So I'm like, no more. No pets are going to wander into drowned land. So I have another jukebox right there, which you can put records that you find into. And this was a fun little contraption after I had been watching another guy called Cubfan135. And this is my other hidden staircase into a second floor of storage, which, as you can see, has a lot more chests because I ended up with a lot more stuff. So this is my apothecary, which is kind of built a little bit into the side of the mountain. I could have pushed it back a little bit further, but oh no! Oh, because it's in peaceful, my creeper went away. I had a creeper here, and his name was Sir Boom. And I managed to get him in using a rail cart, and I pushed a piece of glass into his head, and he was the shopkeeper. Oh, rip Sir Boom. Anyway, this is my my potion, little potion shop. And, you know, people didn't come by and really buy anything because I didn't get a lot of visitors, but it was a fun little thing to set up as well. The other build that I really enjoyed doing, which took me a while, because building, it takes me a while, but I enjoy it. This is my church, the Church of Snowstar. And I was sort of inspired by some of the small Russian churches that I have seen either in person or online. And this is not exactly, Russian, obviously, because there's only so much that you can do, especially when you're accustomed to building on a small scale. And so I had fun kind of playing with different colored glass. And yeah, this is my little church. So we have a couple pews, and the windows look out into a nice view of the whole area and the ocean beyond. A little bit of jungle in the corner. And yeah, so of course, you know, it's not a super wealthy town, but enough where they can afford to treat their church nicely. We have a little kind of private booth back here where people can sit and, you know, talk if they need to. This whole section up here took me quite a long time to get it just the way that I wanted it. Lots and lots of falling off and nearly dying. So the other build that I enjoyed doing on this server was this cobblestone monstrosity. This is a mob farm. And so what would happen is, since it's dark inside that giant box down there, mobs would spawn. But then, on top of that, let me get back down here. There was redstone set up on the sides, so that way, after a certain amount of time, water would shoot out. Oh, you can hear it going. There's little dispensers in there with water buckets. And what would happen is mobs would fall from the bottom. And this is exactly what would happen. This is one of my favorite things to see ever, because it's so much fun. Let's see if it'll do it again. Ah, it's a beautiful cascade of things dying. So I think I'm going to call it good for the Iron Bucket server that I used to play on. I stopped playing on it because I started playing on the World Night Patreon server, and we will get to that at some point in time. So here we are back home, and I am ready to finally start putting some buildings down in this lovely, lovely area. So, one of my main building blocks, wow, that's hard to say, is going to be terracotta. I figured in the savanna, you know, there are a bunch of trees here, but I'm guessing that in kind of a real arid area like this, there probably wouldn't be this many trees. So I think we're going to not build quite as much out of wood, although we still will do some. But I think it makes a little bit more sense to have more of this this terracotta as a building block, so we'll stick with that. So what my plan is right now is A, not fall in there, and B, this area is going to be kind of divided up into 3 separate areas. So what I'm thinking of is this place is going to have 3 different tribes that have basically come together and formed their own community within kind of this valley. The first one that we're going to work on is going to be more of the herdsmen. So since we have these animals set up over here, and we will get more in the future, the idea is that these people came from the grasslands that are kind of surrounding the area, and they would move their animals from place to place and interact with the various people that they came across, and eventually they came across this valley and noticed other people that congregated here because of, you know, the nice supply of water. The hills provided some natural security, and even though the terrain was a little odd, they figured it was a good place. They figured it was a good place to basically set up more permanent homes, places that they could come back to during, you know, hard times or for celebrations and all of those kinds of things. So let's go ahead and get our terracotta, and we're going to go ahead and make an outline. I'm going to do that in my own time because otherwise it'll take a really long time and I'll get frustrated and you'll find it all boring. But I'll get back when I have kind of a basic outline of what's going on. This is the basic shape of what this particular tribe's homes are going to be like, and I will go ahead and put a little bit more work into it, and I will get back to you as soon as I get some more details done. Now I have the walls up, and I worked in the 2 colors that I think will fit well for our herdsman tribe. And so we're going to have the green and the white, and as you can see, even though it's kind of pinkish by itself, compared to the other terracottas, it really does still have kind of that white color to it. So I think that will work really nicely in this area. Definitely give some color, a little bit of uniqueness to this design. And now for the hard part, which is going to be the roof, because roofs are not my forte, but we're going to figure out, and it's going to be fun. So I will work on that for hopefully not too long, and get back to you when it's done. Alright, so it looks like this is going to be our first finished house. The only thing I'm not entirely sure of is if I want to add any windows to it. It'd probably be nice just to bring a little light inside and have the ability to see out. But at the same time, the structures that I was looking at when I was kind of poking around at some of like the African villages I was looking at, a lot of them don't have windows. So we could just leave it at this. It took me, quite a long time to get the roof design that I wanted, because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted it to be made out of, because I tried the regular terracotta, but it just didn't go up quite as smoothly as I wanted. I tried sandstone thinking I can use the stairs and slabs, but then that completely clashed with everything and made the white look really pink, and yeah. So anyway, I just went back to using acacia wood, and I'm actually relatively happy with how it turned out. Let me get up a little bit higher and I'll show you what I mean. So, there's a nice kind of rounded shape. I didn't want it to go up too high, and I thought it was kind of fun to do something a little bit unique as far as making sort of like almost two buildings in one, and just having kind of this shared roof area right here. And yeah, so let me know if you like it, if there's any changes that you would make to it. And let's see, let me run inside real quick, kind of show you what it looks like in there right now. I'll probably do a little bit of decorating as time goes on. As you can see, the floor here is still dirt. I used acacia here, and we'll see if I stick with the wood or if I want to switch to something else. I'm going to consider this first house done and a success, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I like the stripes of colors, kind of denoting the tribe that these people belong to, and kind of their standard colors. And I look forward to making some more buildings that are similar to this, different sizes, and are just kind of scattered around, and yeah, make this area actually feel a little bit lived in. Before I head out, I wanted to thank each of you for all the support that you've shown me during this series so far. It really does mean a lot to me that you've taken time out of your days to join me in bringing this world to life. Whether you've been watching the whole series, or this is your first time tuning in, whether you've been playing Minecraft, or you're just here to kind of see what the hubbub's all about, I just wanted to say I appreciate every subscriber, every like, every view, and every comment. Thank you for your advice and suggestions and encouragement, and I look forward to spending more time with you as we work on the next episodes and beyond. Hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!